hey, I'm gonna start some onion seeds today. Now, some of you might be thinking, hey McCare, isn't it a little late to be starting onions? And some of you are asking, hey McCare, isn't it a little early to be starting onions? And you're both right. And by the way, I'm McCare with More Prana Gardens. And today is October 14th. So yes, it is too late and too early to be starting onions. Here's the thing about that. Looking on lots of sources, they either say start your onions from seed in place in August, September, or they say start your onions from sets in January, February. So all sets are is baby onions that were started as seeds a couple of months before. So I'm going to start seeds in trays right now instead of in the ground. That way I can control their conditions more. And then in a few weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, I will have sets which I can plant, which will be on time if I get them done. So I've showed you guys how to start seeds in soil blocks before, and this is the same soil mix that I use for my blocks, just in a tray that has, I think this is a 72 cell tray. They're little, they're not gonna make much space. I could start my onions by putting multiple in one hole with bigger cells in a tray, but I know the way that my health has been going lately that dividing those is a task I'm not going to be into later on. So I'm going to put one seed in each hole. I'll probably drop 2 or 3 in a couple of them on accident. And if I need to divide a couple, that's better than me trying to divide like 50 of each. So there's 8 cells going this way, and I'm gonna do 3 rows or 3 columns of each. And I have marked my tray according to this: red, yellow, white, and then shallots and red bunching onions. And this time for my painter's tape markers, I have the thick roll, the wide roll this time. So I just took a box cutter and made a ridge down the middle, and then that allows me to have 2 sides on my tape. So if it's more efficient for you to buy the wider roll, or if that's just what they have at the store and they don't have the narrow roll, just split it down the middle. It's no big deal. You can just go along it with the box cutter and it'll get you like a few rows deep depending on how much pressure you use. And then you just have to do that every now and then. So it's a little more efficient as far as peeling tape and the cost. Alrighty, let's get started with the red. So these are 95 days to maturity, so that's going to be from the time that I put the started plant into the ground. Pardon me. So typically we want to be harvesting our onions when the tops start to die over, and that'll be June, July for North Texas. I'm gonna pour some seeds out into my hand so that I avoid the dropping them all at once and then having a big mess like I have done before with other seeds. And I'm gonna take my dibbler, and remember, if you don't have a dibbler, you can use a marker because it's got that little end on it. If you need to pick some big bits out of your potting soil, that's okay. And as you can see, I'm making very, very precise dents. And then I'm going to try to just drop 1. See, there went 2. There went 2. I'm going to try to do just 1 in each space. I'm not good at it, y'all. So I don't have a designated place in my garden that I'm going to do the onions. I don't row crop. I don't see the logic in row cropping, especially on a small scale. It takes up more space. It requires more weeding. And really, row cropping is based on the assumption that you're going to have to get in there with machines to get work done. So what I'm going to do, instead of having like a dedicated onion bed, is when these are ready, I'm just going to start plopping them at the feet of the tomatoes. And in between, just whatever looks like it has a little room. If I'm putting other onions next to it, I probably will give that 4 inches. But like if there's an onion growing down there and I put a lettuce in right next to it, the lettuce isn't going to bother the onion and the onion's not going to bother the lettuce. So they can be buddies, and I can have onions all over the yard. And like I said, we're just looking in the summertime, in kind of based on the calendar summer, at the beginning of the summer, based on heat in North Texas at the middle. And we're just looking for the tops to fall over at that point. And once that starts happening and they start dying down, we are ready to pull them up. Now, your seed packets will tell you that onions are biennial, meaning that the plant lives for 2 years. This is true, but they're going to make an onion in that first year. I have a chicken playing in a bucket. I'm sorry, it was distracting and very cute. So they're going to make the onion in the first year. The second year, if you don't pull them up, they're going to make a floofy flower. If you've seen like the flowers that chives or green onions make, those puffballs, that's what onions do. And they'll do that in the second year. So if you want to see that happen, you can't pull up all your onions. And if you want to eat your onions, then you can't see that happen. So the solution might be plant some more onions than you need and count on letting some of them go to seed. And keep them around for that second year, and so they can make the big poof ball. And then if you really want to just like let nature do its thing and kind of take a permy approach on this, let those flowers dry on the plant and drop their seeds and see what you get in the way of volunteer onions the following year. I love shallots. They are delicious, and I discovered them because I read a Bourdain book, and Anthony Bourdain said that the reason that his food tastes better than yours is because you use shallots and he doesn't. And I was like, well, if that's all it takes. And I have to tell you, I'm sold. And if you've never had a shallot, and you might be catching on that I have a way of describing things like this, but it tastes like the love child of an onion and a garlic. And they are amazing. Yeah, if you ever get yourself stuck in a situation where you don't want to do a lot of chopping, you can condense your onion and your garlic flavor by using shallots. It works. Oh, and a note on onions for wherever you're growing. But for North Texas, we are short day. All of Texas is going to be short day onions. And that has to do with how many daylight hours we have in the cooler months. And I think it gets quite a bit more precise than that, but I don't know all that stuff. I know that we buy short day onions because we have shorter days in the winter than the people who buy long day onions who are up north. We can also, there's intermediate day onions, and in North Texas we can get away with those. Now, if you are south of, like, I don't know, Waxahachie maybe, don't take my advice on that intermediate day stuff. South of there, look it up for yourself and make sure you're okay with the intermediate day onions. But up here we can do, short is preferred, we can do intermediate, and long won't work here. I mean, I think you'll get a pretty plant and you might get a little something, but you're not gonna get an onion. Alrighty, all planted. So I'm gonna dust a little soil over top of these, but not a whole lot. And you ought to know I'm apprehensive about reaching into my soil since I got bit that one day. But here we go. And what do you know? There's a dead yellow jacket in the soil, so glad I looked. That is a full-on rock. Now it's in my compost, which probably wasn't very smart. All right, now I am not going to top water these because those seeds are not terribly small. They're not like lettuce seed small or carrot seed small, but they're small enough to get washed. By the way, if you want to keep your stuff that you planted in a tray grouped in case you don't have them come up, just clothespin them together and set them aside, and then you can fill in your gaps in your tray that didn't germinate very easily without having to pull all your seeds again. So I was saying about watering, I'm not going to top water because I don't want anything to get washed. So I have this in a bottom tray. It's okay, these shorts were already dirty. So this is some of my compost tea that I made recently. And seeds don't need that much nutrition, but we're gonna put them in there anyway. Now this table is a little angled so that when it rains it runs down into the compost. It's intentional, but it means that this side of the tray is gonna soak up faster, so I'm gonna have to spin it. But for now, they're all in here. They're all set to go. All right, so I'm gonna put that compost tea video up here for you in case you wanna catch up on that, because that can be your full-time fertilizer once you have it established. Silly chickens. Have a great day. Later, y'all.